don't mind me. Let's get into the video. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. So in the last video, we touched on tunnel modifications to the Nova to be able to get that LS3 6L80 combo to fit. And so it was a lot of work, you know, and I basically tried my best to show you what I did. I worked on the cross member, the tunnel itself, and so far, so good. The tunnel was a success. The center console idea that I wanted to go with that tunnel worked out great. You know, I used a piece of a Camaro to actually get that to bolt into my Nova. And I have plenty of space around the transmission, and the LS3 now fits in the engine bay nicely. Now, back in 74 Nova video update 135, if you've been following my videos from the very beginning when I started building this car, long ago, you'll remember that I had a bench seat. And it was the original factory bench seat. And what I did was I took it out, did a design, sent it off to the upholstery shop, and had it reupholstered black with a red stripe. I love those seats. It was great, and it kept the car original. But now, with the addition of a modern transmission, which was much larger than what I had in the car previously, I had to do modifications to the tunnel, and that caused that bench seat no longer to fit in the car. So when I was planning out putting this engine and tranny combo into the Nova, I had calculated that I would no longer use the bench seat, and this is why I went ahead with the center console idea, in which I adapted the Camaro center console into my Nova. Now, we have a center console, we have a bigger tunnel, we can't use the bench seat, which, you know, I sold off and, you know, went to a happy home. I need new seats for the Nova, and I had to go with bucket seats, and well, I'm sitting in the bucket seat that I have chosen for the Nova. So in this video, we're going to talk about the bucket seats that I chose, you know, how I put it in the Nova, and a couple of other things that I did to the interior to kind of update it, you know, if you will. And of course, the steering wheel, well, as you can see, it's no longer in the Nova. And I'm going to keep this steering wheel because, well, I really like it. But I also updated the steering wheel, which I'll show you in the video. So let's go to the car. Let me show you the bucket seat that I chose, and let's get to the video. So here's the chosen seat. Now these are the Procar Elites. As you can see, the seats are basically vinyl with some velour. Let's see if I can get some light on here. So you can see there, it has vinyl and velour. And the velour is on the center section of the seat. And I really like these seats. Now first, are they comfortable? Heck yeah. These seats are very comfortable. Now the Nova gets driven quite often, and I take it on long road trips. And the longest road trip yet that I have taken on the Nova was 8 hours of driving, non-stop, except for gas, of course. And with that 8-hour drive, I was very comfortable. Zero complaints on the comfort level of these seats. Very comfortable. Didn't get any cramps. They do recline, and of course you can move them forward and backwards. They do come with the sliders, and here's the level right here. You just, you know, kind of move it to one side, and you can pull the seat forward and backwards to adjust it. And then here's the recliner. Let's get some light on here. There's a recliner. And the other thing I like is when you pull it, it will go forward so that, you know, you can have a passenger going to the back. So that's a good thing. And of course, you know, to give more space for the passenger, you can actually roll the seat forward in addition to getting the seat to you know, move forward. And of course, it reclines backwards. Now for the back, I'll show you what the back looks like. So here's the back. And what's pretty cool is it's got a pocket. Nice little pocket. So you can, you know, kind of store things in here if you have passengers that want to put something in there, you know. Pretty cool. I really like that. So that was a surprise. I didn't see any advertising for that anywhere when I was choosing these seats. But when I got it and I noticed that, I thought that was pretty cool. Now I chose these seats because obviously I wanted black. I would have liked to reupholster these to have the red stripe, but I decided, you know what, I'm not even gonna mess with these seats. They're fine the way they are. They're perfect. So I left it all black. Now you'll notice that it has the, you know, the soft velour and the vinyl. And the reason for that, the reason for me choosing that is because I didn't like, whenever I got in the car and it was, you know, dead summer, the heat in the summer, it would heat up my factory bench seat. So when I would go to sit down, it would be very hot, burn my butt, and I didn't like that. So this is the reason why I chose the velour. This is pretty cool. This seat actually comes in a variety of colors and designs as far as whether or not the velour is black, red, white. I mean, it's pretty cool. I could have gotten these seats in black and red. Basically, the vinyl would be black and the velour section would be red. And I went back and forth between this seat and the black and red one, which I'll post a photo of that seat right now. But I went back and forth, but I decided to just go with the black one because I didn't want too much red inside the Nova. I just felt the black would just be better. And with going with the velour route, I didn't have to worry about burning my behind. Now the other thing I like about these seats is these are like contemporary. I wanted a little bit more modern, you know, a modern touch to my seats because, well, I'm modernizing my Nova with the engine and the interior. So I thought, you know, get a little bit more modern. And the other thing is, you know, they do have seats with more bolster. But I really didn't want like the big, you know, fat bolsters on the side. And this is, you know, kind of like in the middle. It's a medium bolster. And it really plants your back into the seat, doesn't move. So it does the job, what a bolster is supposed to do, keep you in the seat, make you feel comfortable. But without that huge bolster, you know, fatness. Okay, so I took off the headrest, and the headrest basically it just gets attached like a normal headrest, and it has like a button so you can adjust the headrest up or down. But I took off the headrest because I want to touch on this here. You may have noticed it as I was, you know, showing the seat. This extra piece. Now this doesn't come with the seats, nor is it available for the seats. You can't even buy an attachment with these seats that goes with these seats. And well, obviously you can see it on my seats, and I'm going to explain to you what that is. Well, the old cars, the seatbelt, it goes at such a steep, you know, let me see if I can explain this correctly, but it goes across your neck, basically. It doesn't even go, you know, like normal seats, like today's seats, the seatbelt rides more towards your shoulder, your clavicle. But the old car, especially this Nova, my seatbelt ran right across my neck, and I hated that. It was, you know, just a pet peeve of mine. Now, the factory bench did have a guide, so that kind of helped. But these seats, when you buy them, they don't have no guide. So for a while, I was driving around with my seatbelt riding on my neck, and I needed to find a solution. And I noticed that modern cars, they have seatbelt guides that attach to the headrest. And I was like, wait, that's a great idea. Now the problem lies in finding one that fits this particular headrest. So in the beginning, I went with these right here. And so these came off of 2006 to 2009 Pontiac G6. And I bought them. They look pretty good, and I thought this was going to be fine, but they didn't even, you know, there's a hole here. You see the hole. So assuming that we got it attached in the hole, you can see it doesn't even reach the other spoke. So these was a total fail. As soon as I got them, tried them, total fail. So then I kept searching and I found that the 2011 to 2017 Dodge Challenger, and I'll show a picture because all I got is this, but I'll show a picture so you can see what it looks like. I found that this solved the problem of reaching both of the spokes. And here's the original holes for the Dodge Challenger headrest, and I just added another hole, and that pretty much, you know, enabled me to put the headrest seatbelt holder in place. But it had that huge ring, and the slit was on the top, and the belt would just slide right off. So that was a fail. So ended up going back to the drawing board and continued my search until I came across the 2005 to 2010 Chevy Cobalt and their seatbelt guide. And this worked out great. Now let me remove this so that we can show you a little bit better. Now this one here, you can read there, it says pass. This is the passenger side for the Cobalt, and I put it on the driver side of my Nova. Now with the passenger side on the Nova using these seats, you need to use the driver side Cobalt seatbelt guide. And so here's the holes original to the seatbelt, to the headrest for the Cobalt. So you can tell that that headrest is quite small, or the spokes are very narrow in comparison to the spokes on this Procar Elite seat. Well, all I had to do was drill another hole. And so you got here that I drilled another hole, and then I kind of enlarged this one just a tad to get it to where it fits both spokes. And that put my seat belt in the perfect position. And let me show you how perfect, if you haven't noticed it as I was, showing the seat earlier. So we're going to press this button so we can get the headrest to go down, but not all the way, so we can still have the gap, and you can see how it gets attached. So it just sits basically on the spokes and on top of the little plastic guides for the headrest. And you can see that this curve, okay, matches the curvature of the seat. It couldn't get any better than that. But just bear in mind that when you're using this and after you drill the holes, you have to reverse these guides in order to get them to work with these seats. So I can't get this down with one hand, but anyway, let me get it down. Okay, there. So you can see how it pretty much pans out when you're looking at it. So the great thing is that the seatbelt slides on in here. Let's get it to focus. Slides on in here, and there's no way for the seatbelt to come out. And it perfectly rides, okay? You're sitting down and the seatbelt perfectly gets guided over your clavicle, over your shoulder. No more seatbelt riding on my neck. So that solved my issue. So, do yourself a favor. If you get these seats, okay, go ahead and pick up a set of 2005 to 2010 Chevy Cobalt seats, seatbelt guides, and attach them to this seat so that you could have your belt guided across your clavicle, shoulder area, rather than on your neck. This, it costed me a lot of money with the trial and error, and so my loss is your gain, because now you can cut straight through the trial and error and just get the part that works. And as you can see how it looks on the seat, it looks great. It looks modern, factory. It matches the color, matches the seat perfectly. What else can I say? It was a perfect match. So anyway, that's the seat. That's my Procar Elite seats. Those are the chosen seats. I love them. I have nothing bad to say about them. They're comfortable, and you know, they've been working great. And anyone that's sat in the car has stated the same thing. They said these seats are really comfortable, really comfortable. So now let's get into Nova and show you how it gets attached to the floor. So now let's move on to the interior. Now everything is black, so I'm going to try to get as much light as I can with this light here, and show you the interior. I'm going to touch on the seat belts. As you can see that, right off the bat you see that there's a big difference in the seat belt, and I'll go into that, the steering wheel and the center console, and as far as the height of the center console and the bracket. Okay, so now for the seat brackets. Now these seat brackets, and I'm going to list the part numbers right about now, so that you can see, but these seat brackets are the bench seat to bucket seat conversion seat brackets. And so if you have a bench seat car, you know that there's only two mounting holes for one side of the seat and two mounting holes for the other side of the seat. But the bucket seat needs 4 mounting holes. And so the problem with my particular floor setup is that on these bench seat, now if I position the light correctly or just right, you can kind of see that on this side there's like a raised section to the floor, and over here there is no raised section. So from this side to this side there's a difference in height. And so in the beginning, when I was when I bought these seats, because I bought the seats first, and then later on I decided to get the bracket, because originally I wanted to make my own seat brackets, because I kept hearing that, oh man, the seats, they're not low enough and your head is gonna hit the ceiling. And I was just, oh man, when I get the seats, I'm just gonna make my own seat brackets so that I can avoid having the seat really high. But after getting the seats themselves and seeing the difference in height, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna get the seat brackets, and if I have to, I'll modify them. And so when I got the seat brackets, I bolted them on, kind of simulated. I found that I didn't have to modify them. They're actually quite low. So I didn't need to worry about having to cut this and lower, because the mounting points for these seat brackets are this rod here. So you'll see there's a rod there, and then, you'll see the rod on there. So the mounting points is here and here, and of course for the back one it would be here. But you can see how low this mounting is to the floor. I mean, I barely can get my finger under it. So on this side of the car, it's already as low as I can get it. Now here is a little bit higher, but it's not that much. And let's get you a measurement. Sorry about the glare. You gotta work with me here. See if I can get this here. Well, let's see. There. Okay, the measurement from the floor up to the mounting is roughly about 1.5 inches. So it's not that much high. I mean, what? I'm gonna cut this and weld it just for 1 inch, So I decided, you know what? This is perfect. This is not that bad at all. Let's get this to focus. Come on now. There. It's not bad at all. So when I got the seat brackets, I was very pleased and happy with, the height. The design of the seat bracket is pretty simple. So it uses the mounting points of the original bench seat, and then you just have to drill 2 holes. And I chose 1/2-inch bolts, and the nut itself is wide. It has like a flange, and the bolt itself is also flanged just like the nut. I just basically got a nut and bolt set up, 1/2-inch nut and bolt with a flanged nut and bolt. So you can see there, and that was perfect. That gave me confidence that this bolt is going to actually hold this in place. So that takes care of the seat brackets. So I do recommend the seat brackets. You know, I don't see why you'd want to cut them down to get more space when the floor. Now you may have a different floor plan on your car, but if you have a 74 Nova, I'm not sure if the older Novas they have this big old hump here, or even if the Novas that didn't have a bench seat and they came factory with a bucket seat, I don't even know if the floor is slightly different, and it doesn't include this big old bump here on this side. I mean, this whole side is higher than that side. So if you have a 74 Nova and you have, or an older Nova, and your floor has this bump, then there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to use these seat brackets and still have maximum height for the seat. And I will give measurements. I will measure, when later on when I put the seat back, I will measure from the seating area right here all the way in the back up to the ceiling. So that way you get an idea of how how high that seat actually is. But you can see, if I take a measurement right now off of the ceiling, let me get in the car, just so that you guys can see this. From the ceiling right down to the headrest is 6 inches. So, you got 6 inches of additional height from the headrest. And let me put the camera down and get a measurement from here to the ceiling. That way you can kind of get an idea of the measurements when you're sitting down. So you can take a measurement sitting down of yourself, and you would be able to decipher whether the seat will fit your needs as far as height, whether your head will touch the ceiling. So let me get a measurement right now. I'm gonna pause this and then get that and then come back. Okay, so I took a measurement and it's 38 inches from the bottom of the seat all the way up to the ceiling. So you got 3 feet of room when the seat is installed with the seat brackets. I think for most people, this will work out just fine. And then of course you don't sit down with the seat like completely upright. You do tend to, recline it just a little. And when you recline it, you're adding additional inches from the top of the ceiling to the top of your head. So it all depends on how you sit down. But just to give you a very plain measurement, I measured from the seat itself, not from the recline position. So from the seat to the ceiling, about 38 inches. So there. So that's the seat brackets that I use, and just basically bolt, bolt going through the floor. And you're pretty much good to go. You use the original hardware and you're good to go. All right, so I installed the seat so that you can see how it looks. Man, I wish I could get more light, but everything is black. But I installed the seat and you can see how it fits in there. That's where I usually have it set up for when I'm driving. And you see the seat belt, how it basically just sits right there on that side. And then the way this seat belt sits on there, and bear in mind this is the factory retractor setup, and so it fits just beautifully. And there's my retractor, my recliner lever. So now we're gonna see if I can do this, but let's recline it just so you can see. So we got it reclined, and that basically shows you the amount of space to get in the car. I hope you can, you can kind of see it. So there's plenty of space. I don't even have to, push my seat up forward. There's plenty of space to get in there. And then so you get an idea of how much seating area the back is. That's another reason why I really like these seats. They're a lot thinner this way than the factory seats. The factory seats were quite wide, and it took quite a bit of leg room away from the passengers, because I needed my seat to go pretty far back, because I'm, my legs are long, so I needed to go back. And the spacing for someone to sit back here was a lot less because, well, the seat was kind of wide. So with these new seats, the addition of more leg room for the passenger was a big bonus. And you can see the pockets, how they pretty much set up. And then you see the center console, how it peeks out. So it goes pretty much in line with the seats. And then you can see the other retractor over there. So it worked out great. And there you can see the bottom area there. So it worked out great. So let me show you now the seatbelt. Let's just adjust this the way I like it. Okay, so the seatbelt. So this is what I really like. You see how the seat, you know, we can slide it in through the bottom here, and then the seatbelt won't fall out like it did when it was on the Challenger seatbelt guide. So this Cobalt guide is so perfect for my Nova setup, especially being that the seatbelt goes up on the roof. So here it is. That's the setup, and you know, we got it there. You can see the relationship between the console and the seat. It looks great. So let me get in the car, sit down, put on my seatbelt, and show you the seatbelt, how it goes across my my chest. Okay, so I'm in the Nova now. I bolted the seat in place, and I'm sitting in the Nova just so that I can show you the actual seatbelt, the way it rides. And I position the camera on the dashboard, so hopefully it's a good angle and you can see everything clearly. I know it's kind of dark in here. You know, if I was to put on the actual light, you'll see glare, so I can't put on that light, the interior light. So I have a light here on the side. Hopefully this covers, you know, the basic information I want to come across to you guys. So I'm going to disengage the seatbelt from the seatbelt guide, and I'm going to put the seatbelt on, and you're going to see where the seatbelt actually rides on my body, mainly on my neck, and you'll see why it was so important for me to find a seatbelt guide for these seats. So let's disengage that. You can probably see that it easily comes off. You know, there's like a slit here, so it comes off really easy. And so we got the seatbelt. I'm putting it on, bolting it in place, and that's where it's at. Let's see if we can. There, you can see that it's riding right on my neck. This is the problem with you know, the way I had it when I first installed the seats without the seatbelt guide. Now, I did say earlier that my original bench seats came with a guide, so I didn't really have that problem when I had the bench seats. I mean, they did ride kind of on my neck because it would attach right back up here on the headrest, but it was definitely better than not having any guide at all, which is basically what you get when you order these seats. You put them in your Nova, you have the seatbelt riding on your neck. And I was doing that for, I don't know, for a little while, for a couple months, and it was terrible. So now I'm going to put the seat belt into the guide so you can see the difference of where this seat belt actually is positioned after it's in the guide. So I'm just gonna stick it in the guide there, into the slit. Okay, and there. So huge difference. You see where it's at? It's no longer up here. It's now right here on my clavicle. Let's see if I can just position the light in such a way so that we don't get some glare. Okay, so it's a big difference. Big difference. The seatbelt now is on my clavicle, in between my shoulder and my neck. It's now where it would be positioned as if you was in a modern car. This is basically where the modern car seatbelts ride. Obviously, I'm using a modern car seatbelt guide, so it's going to position it in the right position. So I do recommend you guys get the Cobalt seatbelt guide and adapt it to your seats, because it puts it right in the correct position, and it's comfortable. It doesn't, it's loose. It still functions the way it's supposed to function. It's on long drives, because I've driven the car for very long drives, and it's comfortable. It doesn't pull on there. It's not like, causing pain or anything. It's the way it's supposed to be, and it was definitely worth it. Now you know why I went through all the trouble of going through several a few seatbelt guides just to find this one that actually worked for me and put the seatbelt in the right place. So with all that being said, we're coming to a close on this video, and the making of this interior, and with all the modifications I had to do for the LS3 6L80E swap, there was a lot that I had to cover as far as what I did to the interior. So this video is basically part 1, and in the next video we're going to cover the steering wheel, the center console, and details about this belt. It's still more to cover for the interior. There's modifications I did to the actual center console itself. I did do some pretty cool touches, so you'd want to stay tuned for that. So if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, and of course, as always, when you hit that subscribe button, do not forget that notification bell. If you want to see photos and that I upload on Instagram, look at the description box below and you'll find a link to my Instagram account. That way you can keep up with the photos that I post on there. Sometimes I'll show some photos that you will not see in my videos, because I took a lot of photos when it pertained to the build of my car, and so I usually post there as much as I can. But that's a good place to reach me if you want to ask me some questions, or if you want to get detailed on some of the things I did in my build. And of course, if you had questions and you want to see more, or you want me to make a video with a little more details, that's a good place to ask me, and I can try to accommodate that request. So with all that being said, hit the like button if you like this video, because it really helps me a lot. It's for the YouTube algorithm. If you guys would do that, it'd be greatly appreciated. It helps out the channel. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for part 2, because I'm going to be covering a bunch of more stuff that I updated for the interior for this LS3 6L80E swap. See you in the next one.